Well, hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Go the Distance podcast, where we go the distance, where we finish our race, whatever race God has called us to. And it's also a place where we have real, raw conversation about real, raw life issues or ministry issues or just what's going on leadership-wise in our lives. And I am really super stoked tonight to have in the studio our Caribbean brother from another mother, Jonathan Autrey, the founder and senior pastor of Iglesia Bautista Celebracion in Verón, Dominican Republic, and Celebration Christian Church, the English-speaking church that meets in the Bávaro area of that region of the east side of the Big Island over there, the Punta Cana side of the Dominican Republic. It's great to have you in the studio, my friend.
Good to be here.
It's been a long time since we built this that we've been wanting to get you here. You're in town, You're passing through, and you're headed to your brother's.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and you're going to go visit him and celebrate his birthday.
Yes, sir.
And then you're going to pass through again on your way home, heading back to the Dominican. So welcome.
It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here. And those of you that are watching tonight, you know we love this brother and his family, Janine and Addie and Mariah and JJ and all of those great folks down in the Dominican. So with you here, let's just get caught up on what's been happening in the Dominican over the last year or two. I know you guys have been dealing with COVID as well. Yeah. So what's going on in the Dominican? What's been happening at IBC since I last saw you?
Well, it's been getting better, surprisingly better.
With COVID?
With COVID, yep. Yeah, we were able to help a lot of people get through the hump. People are going back to work. I would say at the lowest point, we only had about 30% of our congregation that was still working, and it's gotten a lot better to where about 90% of our people are back to work.
Good.
So that's great and everything. So we're excited about that. And, of course, Rock Creek was instrumental in helping our people through that. Not only our people, but the people of the community, which was very important to us to show Christ's love through that. And our church grew through COVID. Mm-hmm. And thanks to our amazing staff and Jorge and Ox and all the rest, they really kept the church alive during COVID. We were the only church in the area that was doing anything for people. And so when our doors opened back up, we had a lot of visitors started coming and experiencing what celebration was all about. Yeah. So that was great. And just seeing our people grow also and their personal walk with Christ and trusting him through this and seeing the love that they received from people that they didn't know and the people, how they loved on them without knowing exactly who they were in the Dominican was great to see, and our people appreciated it, and it was just so visible when we came back to church.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's hearts were just softened and broken and just ready to get back to being a family in Christ again. So it was a great experience for our church.
Yeah.
It really was.
I think that the one thing we've learned, whether it be in the Dominican or here in the States, that coronavirus showed us once again just how important family is, whether it's your physical family or your spiritual family. And that's one thing that we always experience when we come down to IBC or CCC is the family. And it's like you never left because those are your brothers and sisters in Christ. And it really is. It exemplifies to me every time I'm there what Jesus really meant when he said, they'll know you're my disciples by your love for one another. And you sense that. And, there's no animosity towards Americans or anybody that's from a different country. They're so very welcoming, and your people are such wonderful people. I know you talked about helping people with food and helping them through that really tough time because most of your people would be affected by the lack of tourism in your area. The jobs would be affected because tourism is huge in your area. Obviously, Punta Cana being only about the Bávaro, Punta Cana resort areas, maybe 10 minutes from Verón.
Yes. And
so many of those people that live in your city that you're reaching for the gospel work in that tourism industry. And so hit hard. Yeah. And we were able, I know, we raised some money here for COVID relief that we used to help some of our own people. I remember when the first stimulus check came out, and I challenged people, if you hadn't lost your job, if you still have a paycheck, consider giving your first stimulus check to the church to use to give to people in need,
Yeah.
and they did. And we were able to raise quite a bit more money than I thought we would, because you just you don't know how that's all going to play out, because you don't know how people are being affected all around you. So we were able to, I know we were able to send $5,000 as a church out of that COVID relief to the Dominican to help feed people there through that really rough season. But I know other Vision Texas churches got involved and they sent money, and so it's just been great to be able to help you, because you're us, and we're you. I mean, we're just doing the same thing, just in different locations. So as a development out of that season, an English speaking church was birthed in that all through all of this. Tell me about CCC.
Yeah, that was crazy because we actually launched CCC. I believe it was the first Sunday in February.
Which stands for Celebration Christian Church.
Celebration Christian Church.
Yeah.
And we started beginning of February. By the end of February, every seat was packed in this small room.
February of 2020.
February of 2020.
Now be specific about the small room. What is the small room?
It's actually a dance studio.
Yeah. And I preached in there for you in November when we were down. And I when I walked into the studio and saw where the pulpit was, it's right next to a pole. And I was like, okay, I've never preached in a dance studio, let alone next to a dancing pole.
Yeah.
It was everything I could do not to swing on it, just so you know.
I'm glad you did.
But so you're in a dance studio.
We're in a dance studio. The lady that administrates it, she said, "Pastor, we need an English-speaking church." And that's always been on my heart. I just didn't know how it was going to work. And just quite honestly, God used her, was instrumental in getting me out of my comfort zone and doing something that I really wasn't prepared to do. And it was great. It was great for me. It was great for my family. It was great for our ministry. And we started, and God was doing some amazing things. And lo and behold, 5 weeks later, we had to close the doors. And that was hard for me because I just didn't understand anything. And, we just got started, and we were already seeing all this fruit so fast, and we saw the need. I mean, firsthand, the need for a church that would reach that demographic of people that don't speak Spanish, that live in the Dominican Republic, have retired there, or whatever the case may be. And the doors were closed, but there was a great testimony through that. And that's that when the doors were closed, everything was closed. The resorts closed down, everything closed down. Our people lost their jobs immediately. IBC, Iglesia Bautista Celebración, our Spanish church, we had no means of taking care of any of our financial responsibilities beyond what Rock Creek helps us with. And so our giving went completely down. In 5 weeks of CCC, of Celebration Christian Church, and the people from the church actually shouldered the responsibilities of both churches.
The CCC folks.
The CCC folks, the people that had only been there for 5 weeks, that still had not had a sense of commitment to the church or anything, that were just coming to see what we were all about, literally helped us through those first 3 months to pay our rent, to get the electric bill, the little amount of staff that, we don't have support for and everything. They carried us through that, and it just, it confirmed again in my heart the need and what can be done with CCC.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we obviously opened up as soon as we could again, and Lord's been blessing us again. And, the church, CCC, is growing. We have families. Just tonight I was doing our Bible study, and we had a new family join the Zoom Bible study that goes to our church now, and they have 2 small children, and Deke and Samantha and their family are there with us now. So, the church is growing, and I believe God's going to do something great there.
Okay,
Really
so just to confirm, Deke and Samantha are still alive.
Yes, they are.
Okay, they're still there, right?
They are.
Okay, and they're attending CCC.
Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
yeah. So I know, but most people watching don't know. I mean, if I haven't told them, what's the dynamic look like on Sunday morning for you? It's crazy.
It is.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit what that looks like, pastoring 2 churches, an English speaking church and a Spanish speaking church, in 2 different locales.
In 2 different locations. Yeah. So IBC, I'm sorry. Our Spanish church was actually having 3 services a Sunday, we had a French and Creole service early morning Sunday.
And those would be the Haitian
The
folks.
Haitians
Yeah,
in
yeah.
our neighborhood, because we have a lot of them, and
Right.
a lot of them are transplants that speak no Spanish and stuff. So we felt a need to reach those people there.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, would have our first Spanish service.
Okay.
Well, while the Haitian service is going on, because I don't speak Creole or anything, and we have guys in our Bible Institute that are taking care of that ministry, I'm at CCC with my family doing the English service.
Okay.
That's about 20 minutes away from Verone, the Spanish church. So as soon as I'm done,
It's 20 minutes if you drive normal.
yeah,
I was with you in November and we made it in less than 20.
we made it. Why?
On 2 wheels, we came
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
So we do CCC, and as soon as the service is over, I'm literally saying goodbye to everyone. Part of our worship team that has led worship at CCC has already left CCC to go to IBC. And right now, Deke and Samantha and some of the others stay behind to fellowship with
Sure.
visitors
Sure.
and stuff like that. And I head out and I go straight to IBC. And literally, I'm arriving, and I'm probably arriving right before the last song is over. I'm putting on my headset and walking straight up into the pulpit, preaching
Wow.
again. Then I'll go home and rest a little bit, and
Okay.
then we'll have our evening service.
Okay, so
at
you still do the
CCC.
evening.
Well, we just were able to reopen
Open,
it up
okay.
because we had curfew. We still are on curfew,
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
open. Yeah, you know all about the curfew, don't you?
I got stopped by federales.
Yeah, you
I was
did.
breaking curfew and didn't even know there was a curfew. Yeah. In your truck with an American driver's license for Texas, not speaking English. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun. Anyway, another story for another day.
So, yeah, we have the evening service, not only because we're heavily congested in the morning, but also because we have a lot of people that work on Sundays. Because it's not like they get weekends off. They usually work 13 days straight, and then they get 2 or 3 days off, 13 days straight. So they're also on a flip schedule where they can work 2 weeks in the morning, then there'll be 2 weeks at night. So we have to have various service
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day to accommodate for all these people that need and feel a huge desire to be
Yeah.
a part of the church.
Yeah. So, just for context, for people to understand, CCC is in a dance studio, and I may be off on my numbers a bit, but I think that studio maybe you can cram 45 people in there,
You're right.
about 45 shoulder to shoulder, with very little, with no lobby or
No.
anything like we would know here at Rock Creek, this big open common space. And then IBC is in a storefront. It's on the second floor of a shopping center type. That would be what we would know it in the States. It's a storefront in a
storefront.
shopping center, and it's in the Corral. Is that what it?
Mhm.
Coral?
Plaza Corral.
Plaza Corral. The top floor is a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom floor's got some stores and a restaurant on the front, pharmacia, and then you guys are in the middle.
We are.
Yeah, you're on the second floor, and you have 2 lease spaces, I believe, maybe 3.
We actually have 4 lease spaces.
4 lease spaces there, and the biggest lease space is the auditorium.
Yes.
And again, no lobby. You just walk in the door, and you're right in the
You're
back
right
of
in
the
the
room.
church.
And I'm going to guesstimate you can cram shoulder to shoulder maybe 110 in that room.
We've had that many in there.
Okay.
We're not supposed to have that many in there.
I understand, but you could,
Yeah.
and I know we've taken the chairs out and had Vacation Bible School in there. And we've had well over 120 kids.
Oh, we've had over
sitting
200.
on the floor. So you're in these 2 different facilities,
Mhm.
but the beautiful thing is you have a piece of property.
We do.
You have land. And the piece of property that you have, I mean, I know you guys are in square meters over there, but for the context of the Americans watching, what is your acreage? If you could do the translation into the acreage, how much do you have in acreage?
Well, it's easier to kind of do square feet.
Okay, well, how many square
So-
feet do you have?
We have about 60,000 square feet of land.
Okay,
On an island, that's not bad.
60,000 square feet of land's a little over an acre.
Yeah.
It's 43,560 square feet in an acre. So you have 60,000 square feet. So you have a little over an acre, which is a lot of land, especially not only on an island, but you guys build multiple levels, but you don't have the parking needs that we have in the United States. People ride motorcycles, they walk, they ride public transportation, they carpool.
Yeah.
In the States here at Rock Creek, if I've got a family that has two teenagers, the mom and dad are bringing a car, and both teenagers sometimes are driving their cars. So that's 3 cars for that family.
We don't do that.
This is why we need more parking. And so you don't have that issue. So an acre to an acre and a half is like gold.
Yeah.
And so that land is there. You own it. It's ready. And we want to put a building on there. We want to get you out of the lease space. We want to build you a building, but the building would serve more purposes than just church on Sunday.
sir.
What all would you do in that building?
Well, I wanted to say also, not only do we not have all the parking needs that you guys have here, but we're not held by the restrictions that you have here either.
What,
so we can
there's restrictions here?
You guys have so many restrictions and stuff that we don't have to deal with in the Dominican Republic. You know, you have to be this far from, the street or whatever. We don't have to deal with any of that there. So we can really maximize the space well. And like you said, Pastor, I don't think you even know this because this is some news that I just got on Monday. A little bit disheartening news, but our storefront, the landlord, he served us papers on Sunday night after the service. I'm here in the States, and basically they're not going to renew our lease.
And when is your lease up?
October of this year.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, he's right.
News to all of us.
News to all of us. But, it's, of course, when I got the news, I was disheartened and everything, but I said 2 things to our church tonight, CCC, in our Bible study. I said, 1, that just proves that Satan's upset.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, it just means that God's going to do something amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm at peace.
Yeah.
And I'm happy and I'm excited to see what God's going to do. But obviously we do need to get a building up. We do need to get out. And, I do have a way of extending our lease if we have to.
Okay. Well,
So-
I know he's been threatening for a while because he wants those lease spaces to put hotel rooms in them because
Yes,
it's
sir.
a revenue maker for him more than what he's making off the church leasing it. And so I get it's a business transaction for him, but you've got the property, and
got it
so
clean.
we just need to get a building built. What are we looking at building?
We're going to be building a multi-use building, and it's roughly going to be around 6,500 square feet.
Okay.
And it's going to have a very high ceiling. And think of a indoor basketball court, a gymnasium, and we'll be able to seat between 400 and 500 people in there. And we will have a lobby. We will have bathrooms and office space that we need.
Yeah, because you don't even have bathrooms. You have to go down to the public
We don't
bathroom.
have our own bathroom.
Yeah.
No. And it will house our church. It will house our youth development center where we teach the underprivileged teenagers and children of the community English as a second language. We teach them computer. We teach them music, all free. Because we want to help the community. We want to help the children break that cycle of poverty.
Sure.
And you've seen firsthand the
Sure.
young people in our church, how
Absolutely.
they've grown up in that and have been able to get better jobs and
Yes.
better quality
Yes.
of life.
Well, the key is education.
Yeah.
Or learning a skill.
Yep.
Learning a skill,
Exactly.
computer skill, music skill, something of that nature. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely. So you can use it for sports.
For sports, which, you guys know Brian Wee's been a friend of yours for many years.
Yep.
He's jumped on board and he's helping us, and we're going to be doing sports during the week in that facility. And we'll be doing the other classes, our seminary, our Bible Institute, where we're training leadership and we're training men that have been called to start new church planting efforts.
Yes.
We're training them there. So it's going to be our just multi-use facility. And eventually it will become either our youth facility or who knows, maybe a Christian school or something someday.
Sure.
Because we have a desire for that also.
Absolutely. Train them up from K through 12 and then seminary.
Yep.
You currently do run a Bible Institute, so you're training men and women in the Bible, and a lot of these young men that you're training are men that were boys in 2015 when we helped you start the church, and now it's just amazing to see what God has done with them. Beyond that, beyond what you're doing right there immediately in Vadon, and the facility, and we're going to come back to the facility.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to it, but you're also involved in starting new churches all over the area. That's been your heart from day one, is church planting, that everything flows out of the local church. Everything. Then there's good stuff and there's God's stuff, but it all comes from the local church, being that, when you look at the ministry of Jesus, I mean, even charities today, we have charity because Jesus cared for the poor.
That's right.
And so those go, they're not either or, they're both and so you're fully entrenched in planting churches, and you're training these young men to do that, but you also have connections to other men who have already been trained, and you've got other churches you're starting. Talk to us a little bit about some of the other areas where you've got churches going.
Well, I mean, we've always been involved in church planning, but a little bit of that vision was cast by you in the Dominican Republic, just talking to me and stuff, and how you expressed what your desire for church planning is here, especially in Texas, and that's a movement of churches, and that meant a lot to me when I stepped outside of the church that I was pastoring in the capital and went out to the very East Coast. And I said, I want to see the same thing. I want to see a movement of churches. I want to see many churches started. So obviously training nationals so that they can do that is the way to do it, because in my lifetime, if I were to be able to plant 3 or 4 churches, that's about all I can do.
That's about all you can do.
But if I can help train nationals and I can facilitate and help them start the churches, then we can do so much more for the kingdom.
Right.
So the Lord is right now, we've started 6 churches. Now we are actually in the process of partnering with our 7th and 8th right now. One of these guys has been working with me for quite some time. Maybe some of the viewers, some of the people listening to the podcast have heard of Young Life. It's a huge youth outreach program.
Yep.
And one of the head advisors for Young Life in the Dominican Republic is a good friend of mine that I've been coaching and preparing for years now. He's helped in our Bible Institute to train nationals. He's helped my young people learn how to reach other young people. Well, about 2 years ago, I approached him. I said, Fernando, his name is Fernando. I said, Fernando, I feel that God has another calling on your life, and that's that you would start a church. And he said, oh, Pastor, I can't think about that right now. I don't know if that's what the Lord would have me to do. Well, he approached me about 6 months ago, and he said, Pastor, you were right. God's calling me to start a church. And that's another church in the city of La Romana that we're going to be starting with him. And we've already got a lease space that's going to be given to us for 1 full year. And get this, Pastor, it is actually right in the same building of the main college in La Romana.
Oh, man.
So you have a youth guy, this guy that's just great at working and reaching youth. And he's starting a church in a college. And the Lord has already blessed us with free rent for a year. And we're trying to raise a little bit of money, about $5,000, to buy all the chairs, sound equipment, everything they're going to need to launch. And we're hoping to launch at the end of April, beginning of May.
Yeah, be great.
It's going to be great.
So a guy that goes and plants a church like this guy or Claudio or, you've introduced me to so many. Like a guy like Melvin, if you send him out, or
Manesio. You just met Manesio on your last trip.
Yeah, and then crazy guy, I can't remember his name. He's full of energy. His name has slipped my mind in La Romana.
Kelvin.
My goodness. I don't know how I couldn't think of his name, Kelvin. What's it take a guy like that? What's it take financially for them to be full-time and starting a church? What do they need a month in American dollars to live?
It really does vary, but the average right now for our guys that are in more rural areas, less, populated areas, we're able to support them fully for about $300 a month.
$300.
That's just for their personal needs, their family and their personal needs. It's not the church or anything. And Vision Texas churches have been instrumental in helping us with that.
Yes.
But, that's what it takes to get them and help them to get started. And a guy like Fernando, of course, he's in the city of La Romana, which the city of La Romana. I took you to Jumbo and La Romana at least a half dozen times. We go there almost every day.
We've eaten at the Burger King a time or two. Yeah.
And of course, him in that city, he would need more than that. But thank God he already has a job and his wife has a job. So,
but that's just a little bit of perspective that at $300 to maybe $500 a month, we can support a pastor full time, a national pastor in the Dominican to start a church. And many a times in these rural communities, he might pastor 3 churches.
Yes.
And if we could get him a $1,200 motorcycle, he can scoot from me.
around.
Yeah, he can make. It's kind of like a circuit rider.
Yeah.
So it's this is why on March the 7th, for those of you that are Rock Creekers, I unpacked the $5 miracle concept, because again, it's not like 10 people giving large chunks of money, even though that would be great. We'll take that and we'll use it for God's glory. It's everybody getting involved, giving up one Starbucks cup of coffee a week, taking that $5, teaming it and partnering with one individual with 799 other adults, and you put that together, and at the end of the year, that's a large sum of money that you can do. You can make massive impacts in international ways, and that's why it's mind-blowing to me that we would ever struggle to do work internationally when the American church is so blessed with so many means and so many resources that we have the ability to do things. And I know for many people, they have to go to see it. And I know those who have been over there have seen it, and they come back and they go, oh, we need to do this. Oh, we need to do that. And there's been some huge instrumental people here at Rock Creek that's helped you along your journey. And you wouldn't have the land if it wasn't for some individuals at Rock Creek. But again, we thank God for those individuals that were able to step in and be big hitters. But at the same time, everybody getting involved is how we get it done. So you also, I'm going to circle back to that building, but you also, there's some work going on the other side of the Capitol. And there's some neat stuff going on towards the mountainous area, which if you don't know, the Dominican has mountains, and those mountains get high altitude-wise. Let me just testify. So tell me a little bit about what's going on 5.5 hours to the west of you.
So we started a church with one of the seminary students when I was in the Capitol. His name is Carlos. Great guy. And, he just calls me and tells me that he really has a yearning for his community. He was living in the Capitol, going to the Bible Institute, and he said, I'm going home and I want to start a church. So he goes home and we help him start a church. He starts this church in his backyard. Literally, you were there. And we've kind of helped him along the way. He just put up a tin roof in his backyard, because we would have services out there, and near the mountains in that area, it's so lush and green because it rains so much. And
this would be where all our agricultural growth is
sir.
there, and your coffee is grown in this area. Yeah,
everything. And I mean, I can't tell you a time where I wasn't there preaching a revival service or some sort of youth outreach service where it didn't rain, and we would have this old tarp and literally water coming down in different places and people moving their chairs around, but they're happy to be there, and they're coming to church, and they're getting saved, and they're being discipled, and they're being baptized.
Yes.
They're being baptized. And I'm so proud of him, because there's been times where he's had needs and he's told me about it, and I really haven't had a way to help him. And he's been so proactive and just trying to find the way. Last thing he did was he put that roof up and everything. I said, hey, Carlos, how did you get this done? And he said, well, I just extended a credit line from the hardware store. I was like, well, how are we going to pay that? And he says, I don't know. How are you going to pay it? But I was excited to see that he's walking in faith. And I look at that and I was like, man, I don't know if I would have done that, but I've done similar things through this. And you said it this morning, God's going to honor when you take risk for his honor and glory. And Carlos is like that. He's willing to take the risk, and he's willing to put the little he has on the line to see people get saved.
So Carlos is in a city called Bonao. And I love that city. I love the little hotel we stay at there. And then last time I was there in January, Brian Weed, and exposing him to the ministry down there, we left real early from the motel in Bonao, like before the sun came up, and you took us to Constanza. And it took us like an hour and a half to go 25 miles. And it's because the road was going up the sides of mountains, and it was very narrow. And there's a funny video out there of us coming down the mountain when you tried to pass an 18-wheeler on a curve. If you haven't seen it, it's quite hilarious. I about lost everything that I'd ate for lunch in the back seat. But we get up there, oh my goodness, there's ministry going on way up there in the mountains,
Yeah.
and there's some cool stuff happening there, and so you're involved everywhere, man.
Well, I can't take the credit. I most definitely love to be involved, and I'm helping, and I want to train nationals and be involved as much as I can. But what's happening up in Constanza is a seed that my dad planted
Yeah,
many years ago,
yeah.
and the fruit that's come from it is you have a national that's there that was my dad's right hand man for so many years that caught the vision
Hmm.
of church planting and training nationals. So this church was started by my dad and another pastor, Adriano, the pastor that's there now,
Hmm.
Melido, the pastor that's there now. He has trained his men and has sent his men out to start new churches. There's 8 churches up in the mountains, and I was able to go a couple summers ago and build one of those churches, which Pastor Melido, he drives further up the mountain, which we went to, and
Hmm. On a
he
gravel road.
on a gravel road. And that church means so much to me because um, I helped lay the block and I helped put the roof on that
Yeah.
church, and I was there to preach their inauguration service. And we made a meal for the community, and we had over 100 people come into this very small area. I mean, I would say it's probably a little bit larger than Rock Creek's bathrooms.
Wow.
And the people were standing in there shoulder to shoulder,
Mm.
and I preached my heart out just because I felt I understood what the Bible says when Jesus saw the multitudes and he was moved with compassion, because I saw all these people that were just so happy to be in a church because they're so lost out there, and
Hmm.
it's such a different world out
It is.
there.
It is.
And I preached and I asked, who wanted to give their life to Christ. And of the 100+ adults that were there, I would say at least 90 people raised their hand and accepted Christ at one time. And I was just moved with so much emotion, not because of, I was instrumental in leading all these people to Christ or anything. I was moved just because I thought there's such a huge need, and this is just one place, and there's
Yeah.
so many other
Mm.
places that we need to. I mean, that church, that whole project was a $15,000 project.
Yeah.
$15,000 yielded
Yeah.
for sure 90
Yeah.
lives
That's amazing.
going to heaven.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, what do we do with $15,000 here in the
Yeah.
States?
Yeah. Exactly. You mentioned something, and as we get ready to circle back to the building back in Badon,
Yeah.
um, you mentioned you can't take credit for this, and I think it is appropriate that we give honor where honor is due.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this, like I do, and those are really close to you do. But you grew up in the Dominican,
Yeah.
and your dad and your mom have served as missionaries in Santo Domingo
Yep.
for how many years?
It's been now almost 30 years. They're coming up on 30 years.
So I don't know when the day comes. Only God knows that day. But your mom and your dad are going to walk into the very throne room of God
Yeah.
and hear, "Well done,
Yeah.
well done," and that is honor that needs to be bestowed on your parents
Yeah.
for the faithful year in and year out.
Yeah.
The days they wanted to quit, the days they wanted to throw it all in and come home,
Most definitely.
but because they stayed, because they kept on keeping on in good times and in tough times,
Mhm.
they produced a son that's in ministry.
Amen.
Your brother's in the military.
Yes.
He's in a different army. You're working for a different Lord's army. He's
Yeah.
working for the United States military. But they raised 2 good men, and you chose this path.
Yeah.
God chose this path. You followed the choice that He chose for you. And so now your dad and mom are seeing the replication of what they did for so many years now in you and Janine.
Yeah.
And it's just so neat to see. And, your dad and I have cooked the same chicken for years. We've just cooked the chicken sometimes differently.
Ways.
It's the same message.
Yeah.
And he's done an amazing job in Santo Domingo. And when I see what he's done,
Mhm.
and I see the facility they have there, and I'm just in awe
Yeah.
of, and I want to give honor to Ronnie
Yeah.
for what he's done, and I know, you know, there's proof of the multiplication of his ministry when you see Constanza and you
Yeah.
see these things, Carlos and Bonell, and now you get to come alongside those guys too and help them. It's multi-generational, and that's what's
It
cool
is.
to see.
Yeah.
It's physically multi-generational, and now it's spiritually multi-generational, so it's really cool to see. So that's cool, and I
Yeah,
just
it
want you to
is.
know you're blessed.
I am.
So the building, we've got to get this building built for you. We've got to get you out of this storefront. We got to get you the ability to not just have church, but to run sports ministries, to run a Bible Institute in there, to potentially have a Christian school on that land,
Mhm.
train up children all the way through K through 12, and then into the Bible Institute. Just send them out. Just
Yeah.
send them out. So, um, how long how long of a on a timeline yearly wise is it going to take to get that structure built?
I've I've worked with two different people that have ran estimates and told us, and if we had the money available, both have come back and said that there's no reason why it can't be done in 6 months.
Okay.
And
Keep in mind they don't have the restrictions we have
exactly,
here.
yeah, exactly. We don't have the restrictions that you guys face. We don't have to have the permits,
Mhm.
and the mayor of Verone is so behind us.
Okay.
When we built the house on the property, he said if anyone comes, send them to my office and tell them to meet
Oh
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We didn't have a permit to build that house or
Yeah.
anything. We didn't. I mean, me and Jorge and the guys from our church built that 1,200 square foot house.
And you've got to have that because you got to have somebody living on that land so
Yes.
that someone doesn't come squat on it and take over ownership of it because then it gets legalities. And so you've got to have somebody out there. So you built a little 1,200 square foot house, got a couple of your men living in it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And listen, I've seen the house. It's you can tell he built it. But they're living there, and so you got the mayor behind you. So you need let's just say 6 to 8 months to build it. What's it going to cost to build it?
The estimate we have to not have a finished product, but have something to where we can comfortably come out from where we're at and be able to serve. We're looking pretty close to 200,000.
Okay, so $200,000 to build a 6,000 square foot plus building that can be used for multiple things.
Yes, sir.
And as of last week, we know we have a $40,000 donor. Is there some other donors you have?
So we have 3 people that have committed to doing 40,000,
Okay.
and of those 3, 2 have confirmed that they are working on it and doing it, and
okay.
they're behind us. And the third one, we're still waiting for that. We are behind you, and we
Okay.
are going to get it done.
Okay.
And all that is also pendant on me raising $40,000, which I'm knocking
Okay.
on doors and getting. So
Okay.
if I can raise the 40, which I feel confident that the Lord will open doors for that, and if Rock Creek is able to help,
Okay.
and these other 2 entities,
Okay.
we're at 160.
Okay.
We are so close,
Okay.
and we can definitely get started without any reservations.
Okay, so $40,000 from Rock Creek, if the other 3 come through, would give you the complete 200,000, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we already know one's all in.
Yep.
We confirmed that. Trailhead International
Yeah.
with Brian Weed.
Praise the Lord.
So here's what I want to say to all of you watching tonight. One of the reasons why we were trying to get everybody involved in giving to missions is because we wanted to take a chunk of the money that we raised to help you build this building. That was the ultimate vision, is let's help them get this building built. So if we could get our missions giving up, we could take a portion of that, stay committed to our missionaries that we support at $100 a month. And then just so everybody knows, we support Jonathan Janine $2,750 a month personally out of our general budget. We tithe. Our church gives 10% away, just like we encourage our people to give 10%. We live on 90% of our budget. We give 10% away. We give it to organizations here locally, Cornerstone in North Texas, the Neighbors Nursing Neighbors. We support Converge Church Planting. We support some local church planters. But we send $2,750 a month to you guys out of that tithe, okay? So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the money in our Project 1.8
Mm-hmm.
that we talked about on March 7th. What I'm trying to do is get it to where we could take some of the surplus that came in with the new number. If we could get everybody involved at $5, that would be 200,000 a year. Well, that would be a huge surplus.
Huge.
We could peel off 40,000, send it directly to you. Now, saying that and knowing that you need to get started, because you've got a 6 to 8 month window to get this thing done, um, we need to potentially just go ahead and try to raise that 40 completely if we can to help you guys out. And if you've heard this story tonight, if you've seen the passion, you've seen the kingdom mindset, and you feel like God's leading you to get involved in that and to be a blessing in the Dominican, just simply shoot me an email at brad@rockcreektx.church, and we can have a conversation beyond the podcast. I'll meet you for coffee, for lunch, breakfast. I'll pay for it. I'll treat you. If you want to talk about how maybe God's calling you to, even if it's $1,000 or if it's $500 or anything like that, you say, I want to get involved in that. I will take time to visit with you and cast more vision, share more vision. Beyond that, though, I would encourage you to let's go to the Dominican.
Yeah.
I mean, if you truly want to see what's happening here, let's pick a time on the date on the calendar and let's go. We can be down there in 5 hours flying, and we can go down for 3 days, 4 days, turn around, come right back. We can go down from Monday to Friday, never miss a Sunday. So if that's something that God's talking to you about, I would love to share more about it. Brad@rockcreektx.church. But beyond that, if everybody will just get involved,
Yeah.
At $5 a week, 800 adults, that's $208,000 annually. There's going to be plenty of surplus there for us to not only help you, but help other projects because the missionaries always have needs.
Yeah.
Because most of the people in the field that you're reaching don't have the means to be able to pay for some. I mean, I've seen the Dominican. I know 200,000 to them's like 200,000 to them is like 2 million to us.
Yeah.
And so that's astronomical amounts of money to them. But when we hear you can build a building for 200,000, it's like, come on, let's get this done.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to encourage you just to let the Lord speak to you. If it's something that you would want to do above and beyond your regular giving to Rock Creek, because we still got to pay him. And so we still want to support them. So we can't see our giving go down. But I'm going to tell you something, Jonathan. God is doing something at Rock Creek right now. He is blessing us. And here's what I want to tell you. He's blessing us not to consume it. He's blessing us to bless others. And so there is a portion of the blessings that God gives us that we have to consume for ministry to happen here, to pay our staff, pay our mortgage, pay down our mortgage, continue to try to eat through that debt. But we're blessed with this facility, with this land, with the growth around. We're just scratching the surface of what God has got for us to do.
That's the truth.
And I'm so excited for the future of how we can help you guys even more. But I know that the key, because I've been down there so many times, I've preached for you down there. I know the key is that facility. And it's just like it was the key for us. Yeah. It really was. When we moved into the facility, it's like, well, we had 12 weeks and then we had to shut down for COVID. But since we've been back open, it's just like God's just blowing our minds. Yeah. And some people ask me all the time, how's the church growing? What are you doing to do this? And I tell them, it's stupid growth. I can't explain it. There's no explanation but G-O-D. Yeah. That's the explanation, capital G-O-D. It's God, and it's God's blessing, and it's God's mercy on us. And it's God saying, I'm going to take those foolish people and confound the wise. I'm going to do crazy things with people who are willing to risk for me. Take big risk because I'm a big God.
Amen.
And I'm not going to insult my God with small request. And so I just want to see you get that building. I want to help you do that. So we're in with that and we're trying. And, this past Sunday, we're seeing that increase in our missions giving. Amen. I mean, it went from being about 500 on a weekend to 3,500 on a weekend. So
exciting.
And if we can just continue to keep that pace, we're going to be able to raise those funds to help you build that building. So, and I'm going to pray that the other donors come through and let's get this done. And, folks, we're looking at doing a trip this fall. We're hoping that some of the travel restrictions kind of decrease.
We don't have travel restrictions.
Well, we have to take COVID-19 to get test negative right now to get back in the States.
To come back.
Yeah, so we're hoping maybe by this fall that might
Yeah.
subside, because our worst case scenario is we get down there and we got 5 people, we can't get home.
Oh, yeah.
So we're watching that, and man, as soon as we can put a trip together, we're ready to come down and bring some folks. I'd like to take some folks who haven't been.
Amen.
And so, let them see everything that God's doing down there. Man, I love you, my brother.
Love you too,
You are
man.
my brother from another mother,
Yes, sir.
and we're all in this with you. And of course, we're invested down there, not just financially, but personally with dear friends with you guys, but also Deacon Sam and the kids. And so, we're just excited what God's doing in Dominican. Thanks for joining us tonight on the Go the Distance podcast. Guys, pray for Jonathan, Janine, pray for Deacon Sam, pray for all the things that are going on in the Dominican. And again, if you want to talk to me about it, if you want a little more information, you want me to cast some more vision, brad@rockcreektx.church, and we'd like to follow up with you. God bless you guys. We'll see you next week on Go the Distance.